Good evening, everyone. Jai Hind. I am Major Mohammed Ali Shah, and it's my proud privilege and honor to be speaking to somebody from Indian roots who is settled in Israel. In fact, he's an Israeli, I would say. And right now, we all know the troubled time that's happening in Israel, Palestine, the Hamas problem. We all know what's exactly going on there. It's extremely sad. We also know at the same time what's happening in a beautiful state, one of the most beautiful states of the country of India, in fact, in Manipur as well. So here I have somebody from Manipur roots who was born in Manipur, who did his education from Delhi, from incidentally from DPS, Mathura Road, and who in the year 1997, the first time when I came to Manipur, he went to Israel. So we are going to be in conversation with a person who by now needs no introduction. Many of us already know him. And of course, Mr. Isaac Thangjom. In fact, my sincere gratitude to Mr. Rosenman for getting us introduced. Mr. Rosenman is of Israel origin, and I had the honor of being in a television panel discussion with him some time back, and I had the honor of interviewing him thereafter, and he put me in touch with Pu Isaac, as I would like to say. And let's begin with because Pu Isaac has a very illustrious background. His father was part of the British Indian government earlier, and he will take us back before the partition, what had happened. And of course, his father was a very, very illustrious bureaucrat in the civil services. So he studied in one of the best educational institutions of the country. But let's further on. Let's go ahead and understand from Pu Isaac about the lost tribe and about, let's start from the beginning about from the roots of his grandfather. Pu Isaac, thank you very much for taking our time.
Thank you, Major Shah. It's an honor to be here. I've been watching your show from time to time intermittently, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. And of course, I'd like to add like Jay Hind, because one thing is that I'd like your audience to know that our love for India and Israel is the same. Even though we have moved to Israel, we like to think this way: India is our motherland, and Israel is our fatherland, and there's no how do I say there's no difference in that. We love both countries. Anyway, so
Very.
let me just start with my background. I come from a Kuki family that lived in Manipur, and of course, let's put it this way: history started let's say as far as my mother told me, and the things I hear from my parents and things like that. My great grandfather was an assassin, who was in the services of the petty lords that were in the wild east that we have in Manipur and Mizoram these days. Now the Mizoram did not exist then. It was Lushai Hills that time, and then South Manipur was it was like a wild country basically. So he had a son, my grandfather, who was the first one to get a Western education from our family, and he went on to become a doctor. There were three doctors in Manipur that time. My grandfather was one of them. His name was Dr. Tongul Kuki, and he graduated from this Berry White Medical College, which is known as Dibrugarh Medical College now, if I'm not mistaken. I really haven't
Near
looked.
Tinsukia, Dinjan in Assam.
Yeah, that's correct. Absolutely correct. I really admire your knowledge about the Northeast. I have to say that. So he graduated
I
in
love people from Northeast.
yeah, he graduated from this Berry White Medical College in 1930, if I'm not mistaken, and he went on to serve the British Indian government. And till the time, say, of course, in the early 40s, the war reached our side, and my grandfather was posted in Ukhrul that time, and he was sort of he gave his
Uncle
service.
Bell.
Yeah, he gave his services as much as he could, and then of course the thing was that at the end of the war, and let's put it that way, so there were some problems that he had. He was almost court-martialed and things like that. This just he was accused of, but then subsequently. The investigation cleared him of all charges, and the surprises was that he was given a for his meritorious services that he was able to give the British Indian government, the British Raj, we'll just call it. He was given the highest civilian honor at that time. It was called Kaisar-e-Hind. And then, of
Oh,
course,
that's something like Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, like equivalent, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. I guess a little, like, say a simple Google search will reveal everything. I think that's not too difficult.
Right, right.
It was, from what I understand, it was like the highest civilian uh, honor prize that was given in the British Raj. That's what I know. I mean, I really don't know the details of it. But then, okay, life went on, and of course, the thing was that like my fathers and uncles served in the Indian bureaucracy, and of course, like for example, my father he served in the like Indian administrative service, and he served the Manipur and the Indian government for 36 service until his retirement in 1998. And of course, you already told our readers about my background as for like me growing up, born in Manipur, but brought up in New Delhi. On to you, please.
Superb, yeah, superb. So first, before we begin, I would like to understand a bit about the lost tribe, which they say. And I'd first heard about the lost tribe in '97. Of course, I mean, that's the time when you had gone to Israel, and I got to know that there were a lot of people from Manipur,
Uh-huh.
especially from Chwachanpur, which they were there in Israel and such things. And in 2005, when I came there, the young captain, I was told by a lot of people there are a lot of people from Manipur in Israel, and since then, I had been very intrigued to know about this background. And now I feel very, very fortunate speaking to you. Could you explain to us a bit about this lost tribe?
Okay, one thing is that let me begin by saying that Karl Marx was absolutely right when he said religion is opiate of the people. You know, so the thing is that like this religious journey that our people had, it began in the 1950s, I think, early to mid 50s, when there was a local seer. His name was Chala, if I'm not mistaken. He decided that after reading the Bible and everything, because there were some coincidences and things like that with the Bible and our tradition and things like that. So he declared that like the Kukichin Mizo people in the area, like we are like the children of Israel, and he was a kind of a prophet as well. And so like the a movement grew, and how would I say it? Like, of course, it had a brief interlude of like discontinuation in the 60s when the MNF rose against the Indian government, and which was subsequently put down later on. And when the leaders escaped to Bangladesh, it was then called East Pakistan, then. But then, like in the early 70s, it rose again. I was still a child then. And then, of course, like people started to begin to like reflect themselves, look at the what's written in the Bible, and what was the practice in our tradition before, like Christianity came to us, pre-Christian movement. So there was a group in which people started to think that like since the Bible is the truth, and we believe that we are the children of Israel, it is only it's only saying that like it should be that like people should follow the Bible faithfully. Whatever the Bible says, it should be followed faithfully. And then in the course of this, how would I say it? People found out that some of the Christian practices were not consistent with the Bible. So this puritanical movement started, and they started trying to follow the Bible by not, say, for example, like refraining from eating like a forbidden food like pork and shellfish and all those things, and observing the Saturday as a Sabbath rather than Sunday, as the Christian doctrine had like said it would be. So this grew up. All this happened without anybody having an idea there were Jews around the world. This is the funniest part, I'm telling you. They didn't know that there were other Jews. It's just that they just knew that, like, the people had to follow the Bible more faithfully. And then, of course, came circumcision and everything else. And so it was like, I wouldn't call it like anything at this time. I would call it the proto-Judaic movement at this point of time. And then, like, in the mid 70s, uh, our community started making contacts with the Baghdadi Jewish community in Calcutta and Bombay. It was known at that time like as Calcutta and Bombay, not as Kolkata and Mumbai. So we had this young man, a fairly educated person. Like he went to after the Yom Kippur War. in 73. In 74, he'd gone to Calcutta. And in Calcutta, he met the Baghdadi Jewish community and asked them, like, we found our long lost brothers, etc., etc. And like, this is how, like, we'd like to lead a Jewish life, because we believe that we are the children of Israel. Okay. And so the Kolkata, like Kolkata, whatever, community told them that we are a small community. I think like you should go to Mumbai, okay, because we have a bigger community there, and then like we have a rabbi there also, and then he'll be able to teach you what you need to know, how to observe Judaism in its normative form, so to speak. So this was how our journey started, and then like in the late 70s, there was a Jerusalem rabbi called Rabbi Eliyahu Avichail. He heard about us. By this time, our people had started sending letters to the Israeli government, Knesset. We are the lost tribe of Israel. We believe that we are, and then like we would like to ask you to come and take us home to Zion, our like home, our original home. So things went on, and then of course this letter eventually made its way to this Rabbi Eliyahu Avichail. And then he got in touch with us, and this was our introduction to like what I'd call it, like uh, normative Orthodox Judaism. And it began in the 80s, and he came to visit us. Those days we had these ILP, PAP, those inner line permit and permitted area, protected area permit, and things like that. So like with difficulty, it was obtained, and he was able to visit us in the mid 80s, or yeah, it was around the mid 80s, and then of course, he was. We have an ancestor, an eponymous ancestor called Manmasi. Okay, and like on the Mizo side, they call it Manasseh. So the good rabbi
Mm.
thought that like this is reminiscent of like Menashe, from the Bible, or Menashe in its English form. So he called us Bnei Menashe, so meaning sons of Menashe, and said that like I believe that like you all are truly the descendant of Menashe, one of the sons of 12 sons of actually one of the say 12 tribes of Israel. Let's put it that way. I'll not go into the what did you call it? I mean the details. It's we would have too much time for that, I guess. So this and then our
No, no,
Alia
would
or
love to. Very
immigration,
interesting. Very interesting.
yeah,
Would love to hear. Love to hear. Would love
in a
to
good
hear.
way.
Very interesting.
So in the early 90s, after like our interaction with this Rabbi Eliyahu Avichail, like Alia came about in the early 90s. What did you call it? I mean, it was 91 or 92, I forget, but like if memory serves me right, it was 91, I think, when he took about like say 30 or 40 youngsters to Israel and like requested a citizenship from the uh, Israeli government to like normalize the status. Since like we are not how they said like halakhically Jewish in a sense like of the real term. So the thing is that like we are not covered under the law of return at this point of time. So now, like the thing is that like
Under the
uh,
law, the law of.
law of return, law of return. There's
Okay.
in Israel there's a thing called law of return. If you have at least one Jewish grandparent, you automatically uh, you have a right to return to Israel, regardless. So the thing was that okay, fine. This thing went on, and like of course, the past 30 odd years or so, our alia or like immigration has been going up to this day.
Right. So,
Mhm.
which religion do you follow? Are you a Christian or are you a Jew?
Look, the thing is that like I've been asked this question quite a few times. The thing is that okay, fine. Like we had our roots in like say pre-Christian religion, which we believe was a part of an ancient Israelite religion. After that, people, as you know, in the history in the early 20th century, most of us converted to Judaism. And now the thing is that now, like as somebody I'd say, like uh, there's a difference between Judaism and Christianity, even though we share the same holy book. And so the thing is that, like per se, I would say like I'm following Judaism and all its
All right.
rituals. Mhm.
All right. And if you could give me an idea, the kind of the people who migrated from Manipur to Israel, have
Mhm.
most of them adopted Judaism?
They have to, because we have to understand one thing in this context, that like Israel was built to be a Jewish nation. So it's only natural that somebody has to be Jewish to be able to immigrate. Of course, there are other people as well. And the thing is that, say, for example, there are other people like, say, Christians and uh, Muslims and Baha'is also, and even an odd like Hare Krishna also. We have that as well. But then
Right,
we say you have to be a Jewish person to be able to be eligible for this immigration rights.
right. So, right now there is a lot of tension between the Palestinian and Israel, which has been there right from the late 19th century to mid 20th century. You talk about 1917, you talk about 947, 49. There was a war which was fought. There was 1967. There was a Six-Day War which was fought. You talk about 1979 when the UN tried to intervene. You talk about the year 2000 when Yasser Arafat and the Israeli government they tried to have talks, but that did not really that failed, I would say. In 2007, there was in Gaza, there were elections, and that's the time Hamas government they came to power, which people call them as terrorist, as a banned outfit, which has been banned by the UN, by the US, by the Israel, by several others. So,
Mhm.
but that problem, that issue has not been resolved. It's been over, God knows, I mean, close to 100 years now, and it's so you mentioned that there are people from other religions as well in Israel, and Israel, yes, was primarily meant to be a Jewish state. So,
Mhm.
what is the treatment of the minorities in Israel, of the Christians, of the Muslims, of the Baha'is? How's it like?
Look, basically, Israel is a democratic Jewish state which is tolerant towards other minorities, so to speak. And the thing is that, if you look at it, the population of the Muslims would be close to 20% here in Israel. And as far as I'm concerned, I've worked with a lot of Arab Muslims people as well. They enjoy equal rights as much as we do. I haven't seen much of a discrimination uh, to them or to us, to even to us also. I've not seen it. And I think here, the problem is that I think it's a more of a political nature than anything else. Because if we look back in history, you've seen 1992, the Oslo Accord. Let's put it that way. There was supposed to be a kind of a thing like that opens up like a peace deal in the whole of Middle East and bring prosperity to all. And then of course that was when the concept of the two-state solution came about. Of course, that didn't really, unfortunately, didn't take off as we wanted it to. But then in 2005, there was a unilateral disengagement by the then Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, when he was convinced that if there was a withdrawal, a unilateral withdrawal from Gaza, and withdraw all the Israeli settlements, bring them back beyond the green line. I mean, within the green line, sorry, and let the Palestinians in Gaza govern themselves. And of course, I remember those days, there were high hopes. Gaza is going to become the Singapore of the Middle East. They have the sea, they have access. They're right in the middle of the shipping traffic. What did you call it? I mean, air traffic, everything. But then somehow, unfortunately, as we all learned, in the unfortunate turn of events, let's put it that way, in 2006, uh, Hamas came to power. But then the thing was that the process was also democratic again. They won the elections. And the Palestinian Authority, who were partners in peace, they lost. And Hamas, as we all know now, which is quite evidently clear, they have aspirations of what did you call it? Domination, should we say. I mean, their charter calls for a complete destruction of Israel, let's put it that way. And so I think that did not flow very well under the say in the minds of the Israeli politicians. So in the meantime, now 15 years later, let's almost 20 years later, let's put it this way, the how do I call it? The situation is very unfortunate in which both people are drifting ever towards the opposite ends of the spectrum. Let's put it that way. And this is and that culminated into let's put it this way, in the latest conflict was in 2014 and 2021. 2014 was a few days war. It was more of an operation, and then in 2021 there was a firing of rockets and things like that. And now in 2023, what did you call it, a few days ago in October, on October 7th, we had what I'd call it, a repeat of what happened in 50 years ago in the Yom Kippur War in 1973. It came just a day, one day after the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. I don't know whether it's a coincidence or not, but like I'll leave it to our like listeners to decide for themselves. And of course, the casualties were very, very high. And of course, the thing is that like Israel is being criticized now for a rather like heavy-handed reciprocation. But then the thing is that like here like we have to look at the thing in a like lens which is like sort of like fair. Let's put it that way, in which how were Hamas allowed to carry out this kind of things, and what kind of uh, aspirations they have to do these kind of things. So it's a very controversial conflict, and the sufferers are basically the common people, the people in Gaza, and the civilians in Israel, so civilians on both sides, unfortunately. And now the thing is that, like, I don't know, but it all seems to be going towards escalations, unfortunately. And of course, we as like Jewish citizens of Israel, the Kuki Mizo tribes, who live here, like we're about 5,000, and a lot of us are serving in the army, and I'm sure you know that we have compulsory conscriptions here in Israel. So there are some kids who are serving there, and the people who have been called in for reserve. So the number is like say probably in terms of a few hundreds who are serving right now. And then I don't know if you heard about it, but a few days ago, one of our boys was injured in a Hezbollah fire in the north, and he was how would
Of
I
course, it
say?
was there on your website. It was there on your website. I've been following your
Right,
website. It was there on
right,
your
right.
website. That was the first
Yeah,
casualty. That's
the
right.
first casualty amongst our community, the Bnei
Yeah.
Menashe.
Oh, correct.
Mhm.
Among the community. That's right.
Right.
How's he keeping now?
How is he doing?
Yes.
He's fine. He's fine. He's recovering. He's in a hospital in the north, in Haifa. He's doing
All right.
fine. He had an eye
I read, I,
injury.
I read that.
Mhm.
I read that on your website. It was the Lebanese splinter, in fact, from the
Mhm.
Hezbollah had fired this the
Yeah,
rockets. It was a splinter from the Hezbollah's rocket. I read that. I read that.
yeah, yeah.
You're
It
right.
was an anti-tank missile, I suppose, and like the shrapnel, like when the bomb exploded, one of the shrapnels hit his head and his eyes. And I think, like from what I understand, he's stable. He's out of danger.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
So tell me, so the people from Manipur who are there,
Mhm.
primarily they are all cookies. Are there any Maites in or Nagas in Israel who have taken nationality who are settled there?
Look, the thing is that, like, as far as I don't know anyone personally, but I've heard of some people, like, who have married a Métis or a Naga, but their numbers are very insignificant, probably one or two or something like that. And they've, like, all been given, like, equal status as us.
Right.
Mhm.
So I'm even more intrigued to know about the how you had migrated. Like you went there in '97 and you went after completing your education. So did you have a job in hand and then you went, or you went there and looked for a job? Like say, for example, if a person now, of course, the India and Canada relationships are strained slightly, but earlier one had to give IELTS and then apply for PR, permanent residency, go there on a
Mhm.
either on a the different kind of visa. So how did you make that migration, sir?
Look, the thing is that this a process of migration, it's like the easiest part is getting the citizenship, actually. And the thing is that like we have to understand that like there are like conversions in the sense like you have to do a bridge course to be able to get your certificates and your degrees recognized. That is definitely there, and it's a bit of a bureaucracy and quite a pain in the neck also sometimes. But then the thing is that like here like in Israel, what happens is that like the primary language is Hebrew. Okay, and Hebrew is something which most immigrants need to master before like becoming a professional doctor, engineer, or anything like that. And that takes some time. And while they're doing that, the government gives assistance. They help you with what did you call it? Pay for your like education, your bridge course, learning the language, and all those things. While you're doing that, Israel being a like say an advanced country, let's put it that way. Standards of living is like high and like things are very expensive. So like you need to have a kind of a day job or like a part-time job to supplement those incomes. So like most people, say for example, like there are lots of, I'm sure you must have heard these stories about Russian immigrants with, like say a nuclear scientist. He had to begin by like as a cleaner, pochawala, like that. So everybody goes through that. I began with like say an entry level job at a paper and what did you call it, a plastic factory, and so like you work your way up, and when you learn the language, when you become more say like eloquent and like have a command over the language, then like you get to the place where like your qualification deserves you to be there.
That is so inspiring to hear, sir. That's really very inspiring. So much to learn from that. I mean, that's very, very inspiring. In fact,
Mm.
Jews are one community. In fact, I done a play called Fiddle on the Roof. I directed that play
Oh
at
yes.
my school and my boarding school, Lawrence School of Dale. And there they were in the play how they said how there would be a pogrom and how the Jews had to vacate, but then they rose from the ashes. Uh,
Mhm.
they came. They are a very small minority, but look at the where they are today. I mean, the world should learn from their progressiveness. I would say that. So I would, and what you have said is very, very inspiring, sir. Very, very inspiring. And in fact, so tell me, say if I migrate to US, people are familiar with migrating to US or some other place, and then they apply for green card or whatever, whatever. How it all works, people are familiar with that. Now in
Mhm.
Israel, so you went on what visa, on what permit did you go on, sir?
Look, the thing is that like in before, things were, how they call it, like streamlined. Let's put it this way. Before things were streamlined, we entered on tourist visa, which was regularized, and like by the what did you call it, Interior Ministry, which is an equivalent of our Home Ministry, basically. But now the thing is that whenever B'nai Menashe comes to Israel now, they have a special visa in which like this is not a business visa. It's not a tourist visa. It's a residential visa in which like like we're coming in as like say a returnee, and like until things are like bureaucracy is cleared, so people come with how they call it, like what a visa called A5. Basically it's like a green card only, and then it's like you have access to all the services. You can get employed, you can do just about anything a citizen can do, but like till the time like that is converted to a proper say ID card, what we the Israeli identity card, which takes about like 3 to 4 months. Then like there are only two things that you can't do: you can't vote and you can't stand for elections. I mean, which is a far cry for us as somebody who came fresh off the boat. Like it's not going to stand for elections, and it'll take some time for him to realize the political situation before he actually votes. So there's a system now, and of course, the Israel government has a policy to bring in the B'nai Menashe, and we're quite pleased with that.
Why not? When if Barack Obama could become the president of the USA, and he was
I'm
the
sorry.
first non.
Uh,
If Barack Obama could become the president of the USA, he was the first non-white president of the
yeah,
USA, in fact. And
uh,
of course, and we have seen Rishi Sunak as the
yeah,
Prime Minister of UK. We've seen Kamala Harris, people of
uh,
Indian origin. In fact, even our Prime Minister had said that
uh,
whenever I go to different foreign countries, the head of state always tells me that your Indian diaspora is here, and people from Indian origin, they do well no matter where they go in life. So
mhm.
I would like to know, and how many years did it take you to actually become a citizen of Israel and to possess an Israeli passport, sir?
I told you, citizenship is within, given, as I said earlier, within 3 to 4 months. Like we get, it's just a bureaucratic process. There are some like things like the process that
Okay.
takes
So you were talking about the
three
citizenship.
to
Okay.
four
I,
months.
I, I didn't
Yeah.
really get that. Okay.
When I say like
So,
the ID means, it means the proper citizenship, the full fledged. First,
okay.
you get the A5. A5 is like a green card, which you use for like the first 3 or 4 months that you're in the country, and after that, you're given an Israeli identity card.
So tell me, did you have to serve? Did you go through your basic military training? Did you also have to serve in the army in Israel
I
or
mean,
the defense forces?
as much as I would have liked to, the recruitment is between like for people between 18 to 21 years old, and men serve 3 years and women serve approximately 2 years. And the thing was that by the time I came here, I'd passed the threshold already. I tried to volunteer, but like they said, like you're too old. Raise your family, raise a family. They told me.
All right, yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was. That's one doubt I had, because I felt you would have perhaps have crossed that bracket by then, and how it would have
Mm.
been. But they encourage military service for everyone. They encourage, yeah, it's compulsory, it's mandatory for everyone in that bracket. So there was no issue since you had not served in the military. There was no issue in about 3 to 4 months in issuing you a permanent citizenship of Israel.
No, no, no. The thing is that, like, let's put it this way: the process is like that. You have to become a citizen first to be able to serve in the army or something like that.
All right. Okay. Now,
It goes
suddenly,
this way.
I have been reading, I've been following Manipur from very, very close because my bonding and my attachment that I have
Absolutely.
for the entire northeast part of India. So
Mm.
I was reading that, people from Menashe community, they were called in for the war and such things, and they were close to about 300 soldiers whose roots are originally from Manipur, actually, who are there, who are deployed on the frontiers and such things, and they don't know where. Many of them you may not be knowing. So could you, whatever little bit you're allowed to share, if you can just share without, if though I understand it's a very sensitive issue, you may not be willing to or may not be able to reveal too much, but just tell
Mhm.
me they were recalled from their leave or wherever, and they were deployed. So and cookies are a martial race as far as I am concerned, as far as I know. People from Northeast India are very good fighters. I have served with the Assam Rifles. I know they are. It's there in the blood. It's there.
Mhm.
The the warrior spirit is there inside them as it is. Like the way you said, much to the fact that you would have loved to have served in the military. It's there.
Mhm.
So tell me about the soldiers who are there from Manipur origin.
Okay, basically we are from Manipur and Mizoram. Let's put in Mizoram also, even though the population is a little smaller, but they're very much an integral part of us, and integral, and who in turn are like integral part of Israel now. So basically, the whole point is that, like I said, there's compulsory recruitment, and so people do serve in that, and our like say rate of like how do you say recruitment is very high because as you rightly remarked that like we like serving in the army. We enjoy like being in the army. It's something like we see ourselves as warriors. And of course, the British has like used a peculiar word called like to describe what is truculent, which means violent. But then the thing is that that's probably like a very unkind way of saying that like we are ready for war or whatever, that it may entail. But then the thing is that, like, say here, like our boys, they're very, very enthusiastic, they're very, very motivated, and they've served with distinction. And right now, till now, I know that, like, every Israeli Independence Day, they give out this Presidential Medal of uh, Excellence for a soldier. In the past 30 years, three boys have won it so far, and it's I think like compared to the population that we represent, it's disproportionate, I would say. And moreover, the thing is that, like, say, even if we number a few hundreds, also again compared to our like population, we are like disproportionately in the army. I would say, compared to the other ethnicities or like people of other countries. And so now the thing is that now the Hamas, the unfortunate war with Hamas has come in now. So the thing is that, like, a lot of people have okay, a lot of boys are serving already, and there are a lot of boys who have been called up for reserve, and everybody has like sort of uh, uh, say like happily like answered the call for duty. And in my own say family, for example, we are about like say with my sisters and my brother and all these things, we're about like 25 or 26 people in the family, and out of that, say about like uh, four are already serving, and another will be called up very soon. So that's five. That's about 20% of our whole family, you can say. So the figures speak for themselves.
Wow, that is really very nice. That is very, very nice. And in fact, nobody likes war, as you also said.
Yeah.
Nobody loves war. Nobody likes war, but it is
Mhm.
there it's when the call of duty comes for your nation, one has to stand up to it. One has to be willing to lay down their lives if the duty calls. And you are so right. So let me just take you back to your roots now. You know,
Mhm.
the one of the most beautiful places. I've traveled the world. In fact, I remember uh, swimming. I'm a good swimmer, by the way. So I remember
Mhm.
swimming in the Dead Sea. And when I was swimming in the Red Sea, and I felt something chilly in my eyes. So the more I rubbed, the more chilly I would feel because the water was so saline and thick.
Uh-huh.
And I remember standing at Jordan and looking across the Dead Sea, across the border. That side is Israel, there is Jerusalem, and there, people how it was. I
Major, Major Shah, I think I can't hear you. Probably your phone is. Major Shah, I can't hear you because there's a phone ringing.
could you hear me for that
No, I can hear
a
you. There
minute?
was an
No.
interruption. There was a phone call, I think.
Yeah, that's the
Now I
problem.
can hear you.
That's the other
Yeah.
issue when you use your mobile phones and a phone comes in, and then it must be some television channel calling up for the tomorrow morning's live, lining up that tomorrow morning we need you as a
Right,
guest
right.
speaker and so and so. That's okay. I'll call them back. That's not a worry at all.
Fine.
So where was
So you
I
keep.
remember swimming at the Dead Sea and seeing that the entire parts of both very very beautiful parts, but having traveled to so many countries, I would say the most beautiful place is in
Mhm,
India.
mhm,
And in India, one of the most beautiful states is Manipur. I've been to every state in the country, in India.
mhm,
The
mhm,
most beautiful state I've been in India is
mhm.
Manipur.
Uh-huh.
Now, it pains me no end when I see actually Manipur actually burning. It's
Mhm.
been really it's very, very painful. So, have you been in touch with your friends from Manipur? How is it like? What did they have to say, and what is your take on that, sir?
Okay, first of all, Manipur is a very beautiful state, and that's probably an understatement. And the thing is that like it's more beautiful than words can describe. Let's put it that way. But then unfortunately the situation that arose recently in the last say few months that has like scarred everything. Unfortunately, I'll repeat that again. And here like let's put it this way. I still have a lot of family, and especially in Imphal, I still have a lot of families. And the thing is that like after the third of May incident and the fourth, let's put it that way, I mean, none of my families live there anymore. They've all been ethnically cleansed. And now the thing is that I want to ask you one thing. Here, like, why was it done? And of course, there are lots of versions. There are stories from both sides, and there are all those things. But then, like, it doesn't say, like, I don't think anything in the world would justify, like, branding a whole community, certain narratives, which causes people to drive them out. And here like we just have to take things in a perspective that like this was like undertaken by people with vested interest. And here like I have lived in Manipur. I was born in Manipur, and now the thing is that if I go there, if I ever go back there, I'll be lynched at the airport. What can I do? And we've lost like properties. My cousins, my relatives, all of them, none of them are in the Imphal Valley. Most of them are in Delhi right now. They've taken like refuge over there, and there's no way I don't think like people can ever return there because the kind of treatment meted out to us. I mean, whatever the reason may be, was it justified? That's a question.
Right. Can
Mhm.
you hear me, sir?
Yes, now I can hear you.
So it's very sad, very very sad. My own coursemate from the army,
Mhm.
Major Thang Khongsai. He's
Mhm.
a cookie. In fact, he's a proud being cookie,
Mhm.
and who has served the country, who has risked his life, put his life at stake on several occasions.
Mhm.
And I feel very, very sorry to see what's happening. In fact, from both sides, in fact, I think that's my personal view. I think the Maitis are wonderful
Mhm.
people. I think the Kupis are wonderful people. And what does a
Mhm.
simple man want? A simple man wants to live in peace, wants to
Mhm.
coexist together. It's some people with some of the vested agendas who
Mhm.
make people fight. That's a different
Mhm.
thing. Since I spoke about Major Lamnitang Khongsai being a Thadao being cookie, I just saw a comment as well, which had come sometime back from some gentleman, some person called Minlal Hokib, who's
Mhm.
again incidentally a Thadao being cookie. So
Mhm.
he said, I'll try. putting this comment on the, yeah, wait,
Hold on, I can't see.
yeah. So he says, he said some of the Christian practices were not consistent with the Bible. So what would you please let him explain?
Mhm. Look, I think like he's speaking out of context over here. I think like it has nothing to do with the things that's happening in Manipur right now. Because one thing is that like here, I just want to ask you one question, Major Shah. Look, the thing was that like here like we have these say incident that happened on the 3rd of May. And now the thing was that some a Meitei woman was allegedly raped and murdered in Tirachandpur, which turned out to be fake. But then this fueled the violence that came about later on. And then now, like the thing is that I'm asking you one question. I'm sure, like it'll make you ponder. They said like the on the third and the fourth, it was a mob that attacked the cookie houses. Okay, but then my question is that how were these mobs were able to target specific cookie houses with deadly precision, and none of the Meitei houses and none of the Nagas house were uh, targeted in that carnage. How? That is my question. With deadly
You
precision, I repeat that. Somebody must be
you
doing
asked a
some.
very logical
Somebody,
question. You asked a very logical question.
somebody
Yes.
Yeah, somebody did their homework very well. That's for sure. And then I'm sure you're aware of two Métis chauvinistic this thing, organizations called Métis Lipun and Arambay Tengo. Who are these people? Who is arming them? Who's giving them funds to be able to like conduct such kind of a thing? And everybody knows that these people are leading the what did you call raid on all these things in Imphal. And now my question to the chief minister of Manipur is that okay, this drive is against uh, 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 illegal immigrants, poppy growers, and narco terrorists. In the last say 6 or 7 months, 6.5 months, how many of those people have you arrested? How many? That's my question to him. The answer is exactly zero. And how many of those people driven out from Imphal fall into that false narrative that is given? It is planned. He planned it. He's complicit. The Manipur government's complicit. Everybody can see it.
So I can understand you sitting so far away, and yet your roots being from Manipur, and you would be having friends and relatives over there. You would be definitely concerned, and you would be monitoring very, very
Mhm.
closely. In fact, when you told me that you had been watching all my talks on YouTube, I was quite surprised. I said, somebody sitting so far away in Israel and watching it, but it was really, it meant that somewhere, 1% difference I'm trying to make. I hope that is whatever it is made somewhere. So, what, according to you, as per
Mhm.
you, since you've been monitoring the situation so closely, what could be the way forward for peace, you think, so?
Look, one thing is that look, it may sound cliched and it'll bring about ire of many of my Métis friends. Okay, look, the thing is that when you can't live together, there's only a solution is that you have to part ways. Now the thing is that like, will any cookie go back to Imphal and live? That's a pertinent question. We have been raped, we have been murdered, our house has been burned, our property is destroyed, business gone. It's finished now. What future do we have in Imphal? That's a question. It's a very sad situation. It's something like some not. It's not something which we cookie asked for. It has been forced on us. And the thing is that like let's just look into the backdrop of all these things. The Sioux group, which you know very well, right? They were supposed to sign an agreement with the central government on the 8th of May. Okay. And then this carnage happened on the 3rd of May. Do you think this was a coincidence? Because one thing is that, like, if the central government and the Sioux group signed that thing, it means that more autonomy. And then please take into consideration in the Northeast, all the other states have this thing, a degree of autonomy, sixth schedule, Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya, etc. How come Manipur is not having it? There are sinister designs behind this. I don't know if you heard this, but have you heard? Did you ever see this like Lieutenant General Shokin Chauhan's interview? You must have seen
I've
it.
had the I've had the honor of interviewing him on a couple of times on my YouTube channel,
Yeah,
sir.
I probably saw it on your stream as well. What he said was like, I think like it was very very I think correct. He said that like uh, the conflict is a result of certain elites of a certain group who felt that they're going to be missing out on certain developments that are going to happen in the policy that which India is talking about. And of course, like what he's talking about is, I think, like the India look east and act east policy. That has to be taken into consideration also. I think your phone is ringing again, Major Shah.
There's a call coming, and I'll let this call end. Then I'll speak, sir, after
Fine, fine.
again. So then you give a message. You can. I'm so sorry. There was a call coming.
Uh-huh.
Someone was desperately trying to contact me this hour. It's okay. And that's the worst part. You know what? If it's a regular call, you can cut the call from here.
Mhm.
When it's a WhatsApp call, you can't see it. It's a WhatsApp call which was coming. So you have
Yeah,
to shift the screen. That's the worst
yeah,
part. So
yeah.
it's okay. That's okay. That's not to worry about that.
Uh-huh. And then here, like I'd just like to further reiterate, as for like people saying that it's the cookies, like saying that being against Meite's request for ST, and like all there are many other like explanations, theories, and things like that. I don't believe any of those things. I think it's just that like the Meiteis want to get this ST so that they can like say buy lands in the cookie area. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. And here, like, we have to understand one thing is that the Métis, we have to understand one very important aspect over here. The Métis demand for ST was already sitting in the Manipur government's offices since 2013. Why was nothing done about it? And why was that suddenly like Judge Murli Dharan, I think, yeah, they got him to like uh, uh, expedite it. And the thing is that here, like anyone who knows a little bit about like the polity of India and like its various branches, and especially from the like say the what legal aspects. Let's put it that way. The thing is that like the status of a scheduled tribe is like enshrined in the Constitution of India. There are conditions, and the thing is that like there no amount of crying or hue on crying, all these things will not like help anything unless these conditions are fulfilled. And here we just need to like look things in a proper perspective, and we can easily know like what's going on over here. So the scheduled tribe, like now here, like if you look at it again, I find it rather amusing. How come a 2,000-year-old civilization, which the Métis say that they're proud of, and now, of course, I've heard that it's 3,000 in some case, or 3,000-year-old. Why would a sophisticated civilization like that would like to, like, take a step back and become a tribal? And on top of that, I'd just like to tell you, amongst the Métis, you have people with a surname like Sharma. Isn't that correct? A Brahmin. A
Correct.
Sharma is a Brahmin. A Sharma is a Brahmin. How can a Sharma be an indigenous a tribal person from Manipur? A Sharma, a Brahmin, cannot be a tribal. He can never ever be a tribal. I mean, don't you think so? It's ridiculous. I mean, have you ever seen a Brahmin like who's a scheduled tribe? It's preposterous.
I personally feel that everyone who is settled in their land
Mm,
currently, it'll be wrong, it'll be incorrect and improper to say anyone is not indigenous, anyone is an outsider. We all are settled in our own place, we all have Aadhaar card, we all have passports, we all have. So it is really, I mean, I find it very unfair when someone says that. In fact, I was speaking to a mighty gentleman.
mm,
I interviewed him some time back on my
mm,
YouTube channel. One can scroll through, and he said that the fight is not between mighties and cookies. We are not fighting with the cookies. We like the cookies. What he said was some a handful of illegal immigrants have entered inside, and the cookies are trying to shield them. Is that what he said? So what do you think of his statement, sir?
Look, that's almost laughable. I mean, they're trying to shield the cookies from illegal immigrants who lived in the Imphal Valley and served as, like, high officials and in the bureaucracy, etc., etc., in banks, everything like that. How many illegal immigrants were there that they had to kill so many people and drive them out of the hill to be able to say that they're protecting the cookies? Which cookies are they protecting? That's a question. They're talking about illegal, like they're calling us poppy growers. Who is the biggest, like, drug dealer over here? It's the Chief Minister Biren Singh. Nothing more, nothing less. Look, the thing is that Brinda herself said that, like, she was protecting certain people. She was asked to release a certain person. Of course, he's of Kuki decent. And then the thing is that the chief minister is asking her to release this guy. Why? Why is he protecting him? And now the thing is that, like, here, like, what the hell is going on over here? Like, that's a question. There's, like, something. Should we say, like, there's something rotten in the state of Denmark.
Hamlet,
Mhm.
like in Hamlet.
It's
I acted in that in the adaptation of Hamlet, a film called Heather, written by Dushal Bhardwaj. So we read Hamlet several times. I know what you mean to say when you say there's something
yeah.
rotten in the state of Denmark.
So in
Yes.
this case, like, there's something rotten in the state of Manipur. Let's put it that way, and we all know it. We all know who he is.
People make allegations and counter allegations that so and so is lying. They say no, so and so is lying, and so and so is incorrect, and this that. See, my personal take. I would like to take some advice from you as a poo or as a ooh. I would say, that I have kept my channel of communication open with
Mhm,
the cookies and the Maites as well. I feel a bridge is very much required. There's been so much of hatred, venom, and blood boil, and because the wounds are so deep actually, and I don't blame any of them. I don't blame either communities, in fact, yes. But at the same time, that's my personal take, sir. I
mhm,
feel that a bridge is required. Otherwise, this hatred will only get worse. It will only get
mhm,
worse and worse and worse. There would never be a cure to it.
mhm,
So and because also my love for Manipur, it makes me understand the Manipur culture. Just 2 nights back, I was on a Twitter space,
mhm,
and I was speaking about the Saramais. They have a separate temple in near Loktak Lake in Kangla Port, and Khanba is a god. And the Pangals in 1972, when Manipur was disintegrated from Assam, it was formed a
mhm.
same sovereign state. The first chief minister at that time was Muhammad Ali Muddin, who was a
Yeah,
Pangal. And
yeah.
then they were Maite Christians like Rohan or Laishram, Raju Singh. They would be having Hindu names and
Mhm,
Maite Hindus. And as per 2011 census, because there's been no census after 2011 because of for whatever reason it could be. So 53% were recorded as the Maites who were
right.
staying in 90% in 10% of the
Yes.
land in Manipur,
Mhm,
which is the valley, Imphal and such things, and 90% of the Cookies were residing in the in the hills, which is 90% is the hills. So
mhm,
I and then I was speaking about the cookies, and I was speaking about the Thada speaking cookies like Hawkins, Khongsai, Kipgins,
mhm,
the Waipai tribe, which is the Cookiedo tribe, or the Paites like Guites, Shautes, Waltes, or the Misos like Gangtes. So there's a cookie
mhm,
gentleman in the Twitter space who didn't
mhm,
like it, who didn't like
mhm,
it,
mhm,
who said, who spoke in a very obnoxious manner. I don't blame him. He was poor man. He was quite pained, and I do empathize. I do understand his pain. He said, firstly, he said, see, I felt that I understand a culture which is not, I am not indigenous there. Like, I'm not born and brought up there, or perhaps I wouldn't have spent that much of time over there. So I felt, and many times, people, and let me make no bones about telling you one thing, is my opinion and my observation for a very long time. For a very long time, since the time I first came to Manipur in 1997, I felt Manipur has been very badly neglected, especially by the mainstream media. So
Mhm.
they will cover something else, but Manipur news would be on the back burner. And
Mhm.
whenever they have planned to cover something on Manipur, something else has come up, and again it goes on the back foot. So that is the reason I said, firstly, very kind of you to have taken out time. That's why I said, okay, if the mainstream electronic media, which is very powerful, if they do not wish to cover Manipur for whatever reason it may be, if they do not wish to report exactly what's happening over there, let me come forward and let me do this small little reporting from my YouTube, or make people aware of how beautiful Manipur is, how beautiful their people are. So people
Mhm.
told me, don't be silly. You will not get any views, any TRPs, so to say. I said, don't be silly. And that's not what I'm looking at. And people should be made aware of Manipur. So
Mhm.
I understand the culture. And there was a gentleman who told me in a very obnoxious manner that, why do you, how come you know so much? Who are you? What are you? And he didn't seem to appreciate the very fact that I love Manipur a lot.
Mhm.
And then he said, why are you differentiating between us? We are all one. So I said, if you say we are all one, yes, I am very happy to hear that from you. Then you should say we are all one, as we are all Manipuris, or we are all Indians. So what would you advise a person who, in my language, I would say, so to say, Mayank, like I would be a Mayank, who is fascinated by the culture of Manipur, sir?
Mhm. Look, Major Shah, I wouldn't say I'm qualified to give an advice on, what the way forward would be. But then, first of all, I'd just like to point out one thing. This is very pertinent. Here, like, you have a Meitei Lipun leader, Pramod Singh, okay? And when he spoke with Karan Thapar in the war, I saw one thing that, like, he said. He said, like, the Kuki population has increased disproportionately in Manipur, and then the thing is that, like, he claimed to have had the 2021 census already, when it wasn't even conducted at all, thanks to COVID. So it's a blatant lie. And these are the kind of things like which we're getting on the media. Okay, and these are the things like which are like feeding the false narratives, in which is like making a divide ever wider between the Métis and the Kukis. And here, like, the thing is that, like, it's so wide, it's become a chasm. I'll tell you one thing for now. And here, like, the thing is that if the Métis want to really do something, because after, if you look at it now, it'll take a couple of generations for Manipur to regenerate itself and come up to a kind of a level. Okay. And now the thing is that, like, you have these like neo-fascist organizations like Arambai Tingol and Mete Lipun, and then you have the Mera Paibis also. Arambai Tengol and Mete Lipuna, they are like cadres made of mainly of surrendered militants. Everybody knows that. It's an open secret. And these people are the ones who are fomenting the trouble. And who is encouraging them? Who's doing who is, like, say, fueling these people? It is the Chief Minister Biren Singh and this what's his name, Sana Jauba Leshemba, the titular king who is the current MP Rajya Sabha. These two are the people who are, like, fomenting this, encouraging and fomenting the problems. We have to understand that until we are, like you said earlier in the interview, you said we have to identify the problem and then solve the problem. Unless, like, this cancerous thing is taken out of the Manipur society, nothing will happen. And unless and until, like, you have a person like Biren Singh and Sana Jauba Lesemba, like, in power, I don't think there's going to be any peace in Manipur. It's like I don't think, like, it's nothing anything positive is going to happen out of this. That's my
I
take on that.
I understand the fact, sir, when you say that you probably would not be qualified enough to speak about the way forward, what should it be to bring peace in Manipur, and I understand, uh, it's very kind of you, sir. And also, my question to you was the background I had given to you. That people say that Manipur had been neglected here there's somebody who's taking special interest, who's left his work, his actual main work, and taking interest only in Manipur. But as I told you, I was in the Twitter space 2 days back, and this gentleman did not seem to be very happy about it. And he said that, why do you take so much of interest in our culture, and why do you know so much about it? And so I do not know what to say. I felt like telling him, excuse me, brother, ooh, or now, or I don't know, because I couldn't see on Twitter space. I said, or poo, for that matter, that, I felt Manipur had been neglected. Here you have someone from outside who's taking a lot of interest in your culture. You should feel happy and proud about it, that he's fascinated by your culture. So that is, but anyway, I didn't want to argue there. I didn't want to, so I just took his point. I said, okay, yeah, we all won. Yes, we all won. And I'm glad. So what do you advise me? What could I have answered him in a very decent way, sir?
Look, the thing is that, like, there's no foolproof way of answering a question like that. And the thing is that what I feel is that, like, a silence is better, I would say. Like, because one thing is that this person, obviously, from what I see, my take on this is that, like you rightly said, Manipur has been like neglected for so many years. Let's put it 70, 75 years ever since India's independence. Let's say, okay, and probably suddenly the focus is on Manipur, and its people. Probably like we are not used to it. It's just my take on that. And probably the attention is making me feel uncomfortable, or like, in such a way that he felt lost for word. And when people get angry, or like, or like annoyed or something, like, it's a defensive mechanism, for you're asking me questions that I don't want to answer. I guess it's just my take on that.
That's very, very well answered by you, sir. In fact, very, very well answered by you. I don't think I could have got a better advice than that. In fact, sir, thank you so much for your time. It's been an hour. See, it's been an hour since we've been in conversation. We've been speaking, and I'm sure with our energies as such, we've connected on such a frequency. We can just go on and on the entire night. And I think I
Yeah.
recall that you are busy as well. You've been very kind enough. We were scheduled to do it tomorrow, but I was super excited. I somehow managed to convince you, and I requested you for 10 minutes, and you've been very kind to multiply that into six. And and so before we part ways, any last message from your side you would like to throw to the universe, be it about Israel, Palestine, be it about Manipur, be it anything?
Look, one thing is that, like, one thing I've seen as I grow older, I've become very cynical. And then I think that, like, peace is an elusive thing, like, which I don't think, like, we human beings with our appetite for destruction. That I'll just use that in the loosest sense of the meaning. It's like it's like very difficult. The situation is very difficult to bring in what we call peace, because one thing is that there's no exact formula for peace. But then, of course, we human beings, we thrive on hope, and let's keep hoping, and, like, let's hope that one day we'll find that elusive peace in the world one day.
Right, sir. So thank you so much once again. It's been such a pleasure, such a delight, and so enjoyable being in conversation with you. And let's hope the peace prevails in the world and the world's a better place for all of us to live in. Thank you very much, sir. My regards to everyone there. Be safe and take care of yourself and all your, and give my love to everyone who's there from the Menashe community in Israel, sir. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Major Shah. Thank you. Jai Hind.